you always think that when you start out, that everyone around you is going to jump. Simply because they've always come to you.
Right.
You were always that person.
Right.
So they already came. So when I become official and I start putting price tags on it, they going to come too. I'm going to make my money back.
Right.
And then when you turn around and you're like, wait.
Where's everybody at?
They only wanted it when it was free.
Yeah.
They only wanted it because it was easy access.
And we're live, cuzzo. Hit him with the intro.
We are back once again at the Electives Podcast. We have another special guest for you guys. We have Rakia Proctor, right? Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure that I said it right. But she's been a friend of mine for a long time. I've known her and her, not her entire family, but her immediate family. I've been the barber to her future husband and her son as well. So just out of knowing each other over the years and everything she's been doing these last couple of years, we're really proud of her. She's been doing amazing things on social media. She's now a business coach. Well, you know what? Hold on. Let me take that back. I want to allow you. I was going to allow you to go ahead and give everybody the rundown of everything that you cover and everything that you are currently doing. So if you would, please.
Absolutely. Well, I am a business coach, serial entrepreneur. I'm a speaker. I always add in I'm a mom. Simply because that all ties into it.
True.
At this point, I am essentially through all of my platforms, I'm building platforms for other people.
Nice.
So that's my biggest goal, is just making sure that in everything that I do, I'm building platforms for other people, whether it's helping them in business, whether it's inspiring them, which is what I like to do on my social media pages. And anywhere I go, I'm talking about business. I'm talking about, hey, you could do this better. You could do that better. Or let me give you some information over here. So I'm really at this point now trying to move within that inspiring people and just doing better by other people.
Nice. Now when did you develop that knack or wanting to help other people?
I feel like I've always had it. I definitely feel like I was someone who, number one, I grew up with all men, so I have a lot of boy cousins, and I always felt like I was that nurturing one because I was the female. So I was the one in the house that, like if I had a cousin who had braids in his hair and I came over on the weekend, it was like, okay, kids coming to unbraid my hair. It was like, that was who I was. And growing up, when I was in high school, I was always called the grandma in high school because I was always the one that would correct people or tell people.
Soul.
Exactly. I've always had that old soul type of vibe. So I've always kind of had that. But when it came to business, I just kind of felt like I could see things that other people couldn't see. So if someone was sitting in a room and they were like, okay, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, that's step 3 and that's step 4. Let me give you step 1 and 2. Let me give you the things that you're not paying attention to. So I've always had that mindset. But then when I decided to just kind of branch off and do it on my own, it was like, okay, I can really do this and I can really help people. And although sometimes I see it as I'm just talking.
Right.
I'm just
having a conversation.
Exactly. I'm just speaking what's in my mind. And then I'll turn around and they'll be like, oh, you really gave me something. I really didn't notice that you were talking about that. Or I really didn't notice that I need to do that. I'm like, oh, I guess.
Well, there you go.
I guess I'm doing this.
Dropping gems on accident.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I started to notice that that's what the trajectory it was going, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is clearly where my passion is aligning with my purpose. So I'm going to move within that.
That's huge.
And what were you doing before you started?
The grind in corporate America.
the grind in corporate America.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that. I was
one of those people that grew up with blue collar workers. So my dad was IBW electrician. My mom, she says, what is it, like an executive administrative assistant. She was a secretary.
Hey, don't knock your mom
like that.
Give her the titles, but at the end of the day, we know what it was. Man. However, my parents worked a whole lot, right? And they always taught me that the goal was you do really good in school, and then you go into a college, you finish in college, and then you get a good job at a company, you move your way up within that company, and that's how you build your life. In actuality, no one really talked to me about the home life part. No one really talked about the having kids, having the balance. It was really just making a career for yourself. It's making money, establishing yourself, in life.
Right.
And I did that. I think in the beginning of my senior year of high school, I had already had my acceptance to college because I was like, okay, I'm going.
Right.
This is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. And I got to college and I realized that I didn't like the fact that I was sitting in a room with 500 to 600 people learning. I can't ask a question. And I'm the type of person where if I have a question, I need you to answer my question right now. Like, if I'm lost right here, what
Right.
makes you think I'm going to understand 10 steps down?
Right.
Like, I need to ask it right now.
Right.
And I realized that it really wasn't for me. Around that same time, I had my son. And at that point, the parent kicks in. And it's like, okay, now you have to provide for your kids.
Right.
And it's like, okay, find the job, do what you have to do. And I was in corporate America, and although I will say that I learned a lot of skills in those jobs, and I learned a lot of things from either the supervisors or the managers that I had, I started to realize that I was hitting a point where I wanted to do more, and they weren't giving me more. And I was like, okay, I'm meant for something else, and this isn't it. Like, I get this. I can do my daily work in the first half of my job, and now I'm bored.
Right.
And I do not like being bored. Like, I have to have something to do. I need meaning in something else.
Yeah.
So it was at one point my last job working downtown, and I was like, I have to do something else.
What was that last straw? Do you remember what the last straw was for you? Where you just said, okay, you know what? From this point forward, I'm going to start working on my side business or my side hustle and slowly but surely make my way out of corporate America.
I will say the one thing that really hit me was my son. He actually had mentioned to me he wanted to do something. I forgot what it was, but he was like, but you're only here for a couple of hours.
Ooh, okay.
And that mommy guilt hit me. And it was like, okay, I'm working for them, but I'm not really here to experience life with them.
Right.
I can't put them in an activity when I'm catching a train at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm not getting home until 7 o'clock at night, and they go to bed at 9.
Right.
So I'm spending 2 hours with them. Like, how am I really making an impact other than, I'm bringing money into the house?
Right.
And at that point, I realized that I was starting to live the life that I saw my parents do that I didn't like.
Right.
Now, although my parents worked hard, I will commend them at any point for working hard.
Right.
But I was definitely one of those kids that was like, I'm always at grandma's house.
Yeah,
Like, I'm always doing something.
I mean,
with
I was at grandma's house.
I was gonna say that.
I love
mine
grandma's
was-
house.
Yeah.
Grandma cook good.
That's how it was for my brother and I.
I would hide when your mom's here. Oh, I ain't going. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
right.
go
I
hide
got
behind the
something
couch.
to do.
Right.
I'm
I
in the
would go
middle
hide.
of something. Give me another hour.
I would go hide.
But
I
as a
get you.
kid, you definitely still have that feeling of like you still want mom and dad.
Right.
You
right.
still want
always
mom
do.
and dad to show
Yeah.
up to basketball games. Or I was in band and it was like for band recitals. You want your parents there for certain things.
Right.
And I didn't want my kids to have the feeling that I had.
Right.
So at that point, I was like, it's time to make a plan.
Wow, that's powerful. Because I think there's a lot of people that feel that way in corporate America right now as we speak, but they don't know how to go about their exit plan or their exit strategy. You know. And now a good question to ask also would be, do you believe that that's just cause and effect of where we're at right now as society, where women can, you can be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but it comes with a cost. If you do have a family, right now, if a woman doesn't have a family, she wants to run a Fortune 500 company, she doesn't have to worry about home life.
Yeah.
But for someone like yourself or other women that do want to, at one point we're climbing the corporate ladder, but also have a family, there's some give and take there.
Yeah, and I feel like the mom guilt was always there for years. I just think that it was more of no one cared, in my opinion. I felt like it was more of mom takes care of the house. Once it got to a point where moms had to work as well, there was a lot of, women wanted to be seen as equal. So
Right.
if I wanted this, I have to take it. I have to do it
Right.
because I asked for it.
Right.
I asked to be seen as an equal in the workplace.
Yeah.
So now I have to do this. But then it got to a point where it was like, but wait a minute.
What's more important?
Yeah, and now it's like, but now I'm working. I'm taking care of the house. I'm taking care of the kids.
Yup.
Now it's like, okay, I'm burnt out. But I can't say anything because I asked for this.
Exactly.
Right.
I asked for this life that I have right now.
Yeah.
But I think now it's becoming more common for women to say, I understand that I asked for certain things, but I also have boundaries to them.
Right.
So yes, I want to work, but I only want to work a certain amount of time.
Right.
I want a balance. I want to be able to say my weekends are my weekends. My nights are my nights.
Right.
I don't want to be overwhelmed, which in my opinion, a lot of men are even overwhelmed at work.
Yeah.
Like they're working all these hours. And it's like women are like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And now I think it's just becoming more comfortable for women to say it. And there's more women that are showing that it's possible. So now that women are showing that it's possible to have that balance, others are like, okay, she did it.
I could do it.
I could do it too.
Yeah.
Right. But you know what, though? I think that is also a testament to the relationship that you have with Mike.
Yeah.
Right? Because Mike had to meet you halfway and say, okay,
Absolutely.
if this is what you want to do, then I got to make same thing with you, David. I
Right.
got to make some adjustments. Right?
Right.
If my girl wants to do this, and if I also want to show my children that, hey, mommy can do everything that she wants to do, whatever she
Right.
puts her mind to, whatever goals she has, whatever ambitions she has, she can do it just like I can do it. But dad's going to have to, it's going to be some give and take from dad too.
Yep.
You know, maybe dad has to, maybe he can't work as much.
Yeah.
You know, or he had to maybe you guys had to change your hours around
Right.
and make some adjustments. You know, it's
Right.
and that's one of the beautiful things about healthy relationships is it's work, right? And
Right.
men, we had to grow and evolve the same way that women had to grow and evolve, given today's current situation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
When you were in corporate America, what did you do, or what was your process to have that exit strategy? Because there's people who want to leave, right? But you wanted to start a business. So how did you go about that? Because I'm sure there's a bunch of women out there that are sitting there, and they're like, I want to do it, but I don't know how.
I would say first and foremost, find the moments that you actually have. So at the end of the day, in any job that you have, you know what your responsibilities are when you first walk in the morning.
Right.
You know what they are.
Right.
You know if you're a person that only has your 2 breaks in your lunch, or if you're a person that has your 2 breaks your lunch, and you know that there's a couple hours in the day where you're just chatting with the person in the next cubicle.
Right.
So in those times, it's like, okay, am I going to do something pointless? Or am I going to spend this time to plan out what my exit strategy is or what I want to do? And I was the person that said, although on my lunch break, no, I want to eat. I don't want to do nothing else. I want to eat.
Yeah, you got to eat.
Exactly. Like I'm watching a video or something, I'm eating.
Yeah.
But I recognized that at my last job that I was working downtown, I had a portfolio of clients. And I knew that a lot of the emails and the calls would come in at a certain time. And then I maybe had like an hour and a half break. I brought in my laptop. And my personal laptop sat on my desk.
Yeah.
So when I had those breaks, I was on my laptop, and I took a lot of free courses, which I feel like a lot of people just, it's free, so there's no value. Absolutely not. There's so many coaches and trainers out here that do free classes that you can take at your own pace.
Right.
And they're dropping so much information, whether it's on marketing, whether it's on strategy, social media, branding, all of that. Take the courses if it's free. Sign up.
Right.
And I would take those, and I would just have them sitting on the side. I would know if an email came in or a phone call came in or somebody asked me to do something, but I had my computer sitting on the side, and I was making my plan. And I was like, okay, let me build out what I want to do. I spent a lot of time researching, because I'm not the type of person that's just going to step out. Now, granted, there is a level of faith when you step out, but I want to have a plan. I need to have something figured out. I want to understand the industry. I want to understand the competitors in the industry, the people that are making it, the things that didn't work right for other people. I want to know what they are, so I don't make those same mistakes. So I spent a lot of time saying, in these pockets of time where I could be doing something that's pointless, I'm going to take those times to do something meaningful and plan things out. Or again, take those courses that are free.
And how long was that period of time?
For me, it was I would probably say it was a good 6 to 8 months. So it wasn't quick. It wasn't quick.
And that's realistic too.
And for me, it honestly probably would have been a little bit longer. But I was a person that once I say I'm going to do something, what I have noticed is that once I say I'm going to do it and I've planned it out and I feel like I've kind of figured out all the points from A to Z, then I feel like God drops it in front of me. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said I wanted it in the next 5 years. But I felt like it was God going like, nah, you ready.
Right.
You figured it out. You ready now.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, if you dropped it in my lap, let me go ahead and run with this.
Yeah. What's that saying? Energy flows where focus goes.
Yes, sir.
That's usually probably how it is, because that's all you're focused on, your path is going to just start having everything you need
Yeah.
in front of you before you know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why I tell people, like, move within your purpose and your passions, because that's where your success comes from.
Yep. You can never go wrong.
Exactly. So for me, it was like once I started piecing things together, like I wrote out a 30-page business plan while working at someone else's company.
Nice.
I'm talking financial projections for 5 years down to the penny. Like I was sitting there crunching, if I pay 6 employees, this is how much comes out for each for Social Security. Like I was penciling all that together, not even realizing that I was just banking information. That's all I was doing the whole time. But I was just making a mock business plan. I was just saying, can I do it?
Right.
Is this something that I can realistically do? And it just came about that someone had a business and they were like, hey, I need somebody to come in and basically get all my stuff in order. Basically get all my paperwork in order. Help me to get my employees on a good schedule. Help me to get payroll really set up and help me to get an employee handbook and things like that. And I'm sitting there going, I had already figured all this stuff out, sitting at my desk.
There you go. You were already prepared.
Exactly.
Already
so I was prepared for what got dropped into my lap. So when it dropped for me, I was like, this is the move. Was it scary? Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't even explain to you how much fear I had of being like, I'm about to leave.
Oh, I bet. And in that process, was there a woman or somebody you were looking up to that had already did it? Or was it just an idea that came to yourself?
No. So there wasn't anyone that I was actually looking at, simply because I'm a big fan of, if I see something that I like about someone, I like that piece, but I know for a fact there's going to be other pieces that I don't like, maybe here and maybe there. So I never want to idolize one person, because now if I idolize you and I think that everything you do is amazing, I'm going to start wanting to imitate you. And emulate, you might do some things that are wrong, and I'm going to be like, oh, no, but it's okay. I'm going to pacify it in my brain and be like, oh, but they're amazing, so I'm going to do that too. And it's like, no, I like this one piece that you do. I like this one piece that you do. I like this that you do. And I just pick from that. But I think that I've just kind of always had it's that entrepreneurial drive of like, if I want to do something, I'm moving. If it doesn't work, well, I learned something. I'm going to move where I want to move.
No losses, only lessons.
Exactly. You know? I love that.
There you go.
But honestly, that's just, to be an entrepreneur, you really got to have that mindset. And I felt like for me, I had that. And I told myself, this is what I want to do. Had a lot of conversations with Mike about, hey, I know this may not sound right for the family, but I got to make this move. I got to make this move for me. And it feels right in my spirit. And I know that this is the right move for me. And it honestly was. It was. Now, mind you, it didn't last. It didn't last how long I wanted that situation to last. But it definitely was a learning experience. And it was the step. It was basically the first step in getting me to where I am now.
Right. So you brought up a good when you said balance. I think it was upstairs before the podcast started, or you were talking about, work-life balance. Now, I read a book called What's Your One Thing? I don't know if you read it, by Keller Williams.
I read romance books.
Oh, romance. I don't read romance books.
She's like, I gotta take a break from all the business stuff and balance it out with
some romance. So Malcolm and I talk about this work-life balance, and in the book, it talks about balance is not like a real thing. There is no balance. Balance is accomplished in extreme levels. So you have your work, that's your work, and then your family's on this side. But you can't put them both in the middle.
Nope.
So how do you go about achieving that? Because him and I have different, perspectives on it. I tell him, I'm like, dude, you're not going to be able to do that. You won't have any time. So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like balance is, number one, it's specific to the person, because everybody can't put 50% in work and 50% in home.
Right.
Some people have to put, 80% in home and 20% in work, especially if home has demands. I see it with moms that either they have like health conditions or their children have health conditions. It's like that balance looks a whole lot different for everybody.
Right.
But I always say it's a fluctuating thing. Because one quarter, I like to think in quarters with business, but one quarter, I may say I've got this schedule outlined in terms of when I'm going to create content, when I'm going to sit down with clients, when I'm going to do meetings, things like that. And then the next quarter comes, and then there's something else that happens with the kids. And I'm like, okay, no, wait. Now I have to change this. I have to balance it a little different.
Right.
So there is that level of figuring out what will work right now. And then next week, understanding that may change.
Right.
It may not be the same thing all the time.
Right.
But it's kind of just being mindful of, okay, if it's not working, now change something.
Right.
Don't just sit in the, okay, this is the schedule I made January 1st. I put it on my vision board.
Yep.
So all the way till December, the end of December,
Yep.
I have to do what I said there. No.
No, it has to
Be
change.
flexible with
Yeah.
yourself.
No,
like,
yep.
understand that if you made this schedule and it worked for a little while, now you're stressed out. Change.
Change it.
Right. You can adapt.
Like, don't
Yeah.
feel so stuck in what you plan for yourself. But
Right.
for me, I would say it's ever changing.
Yep.
It's always figuring out, okay, what's working? If it's
Right.
not working, okay, what can we change? Do I have a new idea? Because I come up with ideas like it's nothing. Like every
Elon Musk.
She's
over
writing
here.
on the windows.
Yeah, yeah.
A
You
beautiful
would not believe
mind.
how many notes I have in my phone and how many
believe it.
notepads are filled up in my desk in my office. But I'm always coming up with something. And it's like, okay, can I fit this into Q4 of this year? Or should I maybe push it
Yep.
into Q2 of next
Yep.
year? Or can I do it next week?
Mm-hmm.
And then figuring out, okay, what are the demands of that thing?
Yep.
And how will that mess up the balance? How will that
Right.
mess up what I've got going on right now? And if it will be too much right now,
Right.
move it.
Yep. You gotta
Don't do it
move
right now. Do it a little later on when maybe
Yep.
things are a little easier and you've kind of figured out the current schedule that you got right now.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that because it sounds like you do it at extreme levels. Like when it's business time, and then you got your family time, and then nothing else is really in the middle. And then when it's family time, you're like,
locked
okay,
into
I
that.
could put
Yeah.
that, I could put that aside for a little bit, but now it's all family time, and then that's how you're achieving the balance. But
Once I've got
never,
a glass of wine in my hand,
yeah,
It's a wrap.
don't call me.
don't
for
call
moving.
me. But never in the middle. You know, you're like
Yeah.
you can't have the kids sitting there and you're working.
You'll
you know,
always get distracted.
You're just too much distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also like that's creating boundaries as an entrepreneur,
Huge,
right? You have to let your
huge.
clients and your customers know, like, hey, look, I'm human, right? I do have a family. When I say that I'm done at whatever time it is, that's when I'm done, and I'll get back to you. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's not that I don't want to do business with you. It's just that I have to establish these boundaries for myself.
Yep.
You know, because you also too, everything that you're talking about doing, and we briefly discussed this as well, but you're in such a business is such a it requires so much of you.
Yeah.
It requires so much of your mental space, right? Because you're constantly go. You're constantly thinking of how you can improve, how you can push the envelope. So you need something on the other end to balance you out.
Yeah.
And we briefly discussed this, and you mentioned even when you first came here, you like plants, right?
Love them.
As soon as you walk into the house, and one of the first things you see is, oh, I love those plants. You know, you gave a compliment to him, and he's like, huh, okay. You know, he didn't even know those plants were behind him, but they're
just
there.
there.
I'll check
right?
the
They're
bank
decoration
statement.
in the house.
Yeah.
So I brought that up because you mentioned that you have a garden, right? And we talk about how important it is to balance yourself out. Talk about how important your garden is to you.
Oh, my garden. I feel like sometimes people get annoyed because I talk about my garden so much, but it really is such a zen place for me. I think it was around, we bought our house, and then I noticed that, well, number one, food prices are ridiculous. And if you have kids that are either preteens or teens, you
They're eating
realize
out
that
the
they're
house.
eating you out of house
Yeah.
and home. So I kind of realized that, okay, well, I can grow some of the food. You can't grow everything.
Right.
But I can grow some stuff that the kids can snack on and not constantly open pantries and open refrigerator doors.
True.
I can't
Right.
tell
True.
you. I mean, I'm sure you know as a parent, it's annoying to constantly hear that refrigerator door open and close constantly.
I have no idea what that's like yet.
But I was kind of like, okay, I can, grow some cucumbers because then the kids can snack on cucumbers. Like they
There you
love
go.
cucumbers with lime and some tahini.
There you
Oh,
go.
man. Oh,
They're big fans. I'm not a fan of
There you
tahini,
go.
but
Pepinos.
no. Yeah. That's a go-to snack right there in the Mexican household
Yep.
for sure.
yeah, I
for
noticed
sure.
that. My kids are part Mexican, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
noticed that.
yeah.
I
There you
didn't
go.
know that growing up, but
Yeah.
I kind of learned that. But I realized that having a garden would help the family.
Yep.
So that was originally the thought. But then when I started building the garden and just sitting in the garden, I found so much peace just
Yep.
being in that garden, just
Yep.
being like one with nature. I would sit and read sitting on the grass in my garden, just sitting there, like just being surrounded by the plants. And it became something where I was like, especially in the summertime when it's nice outside, I went to the garden first. How a lot of people say, never start your day directly in business. Never do that. You got to do something for you first to like clear your mind, center yourself. So what I would do is I would take the dog out, because of course my dog has to chase away all the bunnies from my garden.
Yep.
I would take the dog out and I would go in the garden and I would walk through the garden. I would walk through my garden beds. I would talk to my plants. I play music, and I was picking tomatoes and eating random tomatoes, and it was just that calm made it so I could go into my office and have a productive work day because I had already centered myself. Some people meditate.
Right.
You know, some people have a dance party in the morning. I
go to
try
the
to make my
gym.
kids have dance parties in the morning. So I'm like, start your day off good.
Right. There you go.
But for me, that garden is just, it's a place of peace. It's a place of calm. It's cold right now, so I haven't gotten back out there yet. But it's really just, it's something for me that grounds me.
Yeah.
That keeps me calm. It's very peaceful. I don't know anyone who can sit in the garden and see chaos.
True.
Right.
Like,
True.
I don't know how.
Well,
it's nature.
Well, we talked about the concept, and I kind of, which was kind of cool for me, because you were dropping so many gems on me when we had the meetup at the coffee shop. But I said to you, could it be that, you know, and we briefly talked about this because I don't want people to misconstrue. When I always bring up masculine and feminine, I'm talking about energies. I'm not talking about male or female from a biological standpoint. I'm talking about energies, right?
Right.
And being in business, being an entrepreneur, even in corporate America, it was a very male-dominated space. So it requires a lot of masculine energy,
Absolutely.
right? And so you have to balance that masculine energy out somehow.
Right.
Having a garden, having a family, all of that, feminine energy, you know. And so that zen that you talk about, that groundingness that you feel when you're in the garden, I think is how you find your balance, quote unquote,
Right.
even in a different way.
That's her middle part. That's the middle part.
Yeah, that's the middle part.
garden.
That's
garden,
the middle part.
because that's the nothing.
Bridges
it's nothing. It doesn't require.
Y'all giving me gems. I don't
You know,
even
it doesn't
notice
require
That's
the
so
work.
good.
Every now and then here at the Electus podcast, we drop a couple.
You know, we
gems,
drop a little bit.
You know, drop a little,
You know,
just like salt.
as Malcolm
Salt Bae.
Yeah, Salt Bae, you know, we'll drop them on.
what'd you say last time? Sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese.
Little
on there.
Parmesan cheese, you know.
And we'll take a break from there.
All right, cool.
We're back from the break.
Cool. All right, Rakia, so what does bossish behavior actually mean?
So bossish behavior actually came from me trying to put a name to just the full embodiment of how I operate in business. So for me, as a business coach, I always say anywhere that I operate, whether it's in a coaching session, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm being a mom, in anything that I do, there's a certain aura, there's a certain behavior that I have that everyone knows. That's Kia. Like, there's no question that is her. So my brand is Rakia Proctor. So you're going to get that everywhere you go. It is really the behavior that I have at all times, which is being a boss. So with any of my branding. So if I decide to make a video or something like that or some content, there's a certain feeling you get from what I'm saying.
Right.
At no point is it scripted. It's all coming from me.
No,
but the same vibe that you get from my Instagram reel or a YouTube short or a Twitter post is the same feeling across the board, but it's all a level for me of professionalism, showing up as I am. That's my behavior as a boss. So when I like to explain to people that I want you to show up in your bossish behavior, what is that for you? What is your boss vibe? What does it look like? Like for me, it sometimes might be gym shoes. It sometimes might be heels. It's me just being me.
Right.
But for someone else, their bossish behavior might be that corporate level. But show up with that all the time.
Right.
Don't just be that on social media or in a boardroom.
Right.
No, be that everywhere you go because you are your brand.
Yeah.
Right.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything you do, everything you say, everything. You know, it's that bossish behavior. And it's really like I'm trying to get people to understand having that bossish behavior translate to even the people that you're around. So like my kids understand if something happens at the park or something like that and they know they have to come get mom, I'm still going to act the way I normally act. Now, it's my kids, so Mama Bear is going to come out.
Right.
But I'm still going to I have a business to run at the end of the day. So I'm going to come very correctly. I'm going to talk to you professionally, but that's a part of my bossish behavior that bleeds over into home life, business life, everything. So
It's an energy.
Exactly. So bossish behavior is really just, It's an attitude, it's a mindset, it's a feeling, it's a brand. It's all of that. It's all of it combined.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And we can feel that.
Right.
We literally can feel that. No, it is. It really is. It's like, and that's how you know it's coming from a 100% place of authenticity, right? And we talk about that so much on the podcast, like being authentic and how important it is, you know? So, but with that being said, obviously, so, you know, Bossish Behavior, that being the brand and that being the energy, you have a summit coming up in July. So let's talk about that because we want to plug that and we want to get as many women as we can to go to this summit and come and support you because we honestly feel like you got such a great event. You got how many guest speakers?
I have 12.
12 guest speakers.
That's a lot.
And just give a quick run. Well, before that, what's your social media handle that everybody can reach you at?
Coach Rakia Proctor. Everywhere. All platforms.
We'll put it up on there.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Nice. And give everybody a rundown of what you're going to have at the summit.
Yes, so the summit is a 2-day event. The first day is really going to be the exhibitor showcase. So we have 60 plus vendors that will be in the room that are able to showcase their brand, sell products, sell services. So I'm really big on it not just being you have a tangible product, but you also have services that you can showcase and let people know that what you've got going on. But then at the same time, we have a separate room that's going to have different session speakers that are going to touch on different things like social media, work-life balance, your mental space, being in business, because, you know, obviously that's important. But they're just going to touch on different things every hour. All of the exhibitors have access to that at the same time. So they're not just sitting at a table, you know, selling their product. They're also getting fed into as well by being able to go to those sessions. And then Sunday, we have the full conference. So we've got panelists coming. We've got guest speakers coming there as well. It's going to be where we're going to have some breakfast. We're going to have some lunch. But we're also going to interact with each other. So there's a lot of networking going on, kind of getting around people. So, you know, just being in the room with people is nice, sitting at a table and getting to know the people at your table, but also getting up and doing activities that force you to meet the person on the other side of the room that just might be the person that is going to be collaborating with you next year.
Yeah,
like,
you might
just
need
never
that
know.
person. Yeah, you never know.
Exactly. So
Never know who's going to be
you
there.
got to get up and move around. So 2 days packed full of being poured into networking, collaborations, just a whole lot in 2 days.
And how does somebody get plugged into that? How they purchase tickets or?
Yes. So if you go to my website, which is www.rakiaproctor.com. I make everything easy.
Yep.
So if you go to my website, you can actually go directly to the summit page where you can get information about the entire summit, as well as the speaker details listed in there. If you want to be an exhibitor, you can apply to be an exhibitor in there. You can buy your tickets now. Everything is available on the site. I made it very easy for everybody to get information, get tickets, whatever you need will be listed on that site.
Nice. And if you go ahead. Go ahead. All right. Go ahead with it.
Well, I was just gonna drop in that, you know, we're gonna have something for our viewers and our listeners at the end, a nice little surprise.
Yeah.
So stick around and
two minds think alike.
There we go.
Great minds.
Yes, sir.
So transitioning from the summit, because we're gonna save some of the best parts for the last.
Cool.
What were your biggest hurdles when you became or transitioning into a full-time entrepreneur?
I will say the biggest one was getting people to understand the value that I had. Because it's one thing for someone to sit in a room and journal and really manifest with themselves and understand where their passion is, what their purpose is. It's a whole nother thing to get other people to understand it as well.
True.
You can tell your family, you can tell your friends. They've seen you grow up.
Right.
They've seen you dabble in certain things. They know it. They know, like, oh, yeah, that's the go-to person for hair. That's the go-to person for business. Or that's the go-to person for whatever. Right. But it's a whole nother thing to get other people to recognize it. And I think when I started out, I had a social media page, but I only had Facebook and Instagram. And I was really posting like maybe like once a month. And it was really like, okay, my daughter had a cheer competition. Let me post a picture of her from her competition. I really wasn't doing anything like that. But I really had to realize, okay, if I want people to know what I do and what I offer, then I have to put myself out there.
Yep.
I have to go to networking events. Yep. I have to go, even to going to festivals where you're like, hey, I'm just going because it's a carnival or something like that.
Right.
But you just never know who you may bump into while you're there.
Sure.
So it's really understanding how to expose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of thought, in the beginning, because I always say anything I coach on is something that I've learned myself.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, I was like, they'll know. It'll come. It'll just happen.
No.
But it was like, no.
Yeah.
You actually have to do the work and let people know what you have going on. So it was transitioning the social media pages to let people know, hey, I am a business coach. This is what I coach people on. In the beginning, I did a lot of free classes on, hey, this is how you set up a schedule. This is how you figure out a home and work balance. These are the things you want to pay attention to. So it's really figuring out those things. But I will say the biggest hurdle was probably that exposure, like getting people to understand, like, hey, this is really what I do. This is really what's in me. And I really want to get it translated over to you so that you can learn from what I've already learned myself.
Right. Yeah, and social media, obviously, like now, right, and we talk about this all the time, but you can connect with people from all across the world.
Absolutely.
We didn't have that before, so networking and using social media to your advantage. Well, and this is a good question to ask. How much has your social media grown since you first started?
So it's an interesting question because when people ask about growth on social media, a lot of people are like, I got a lot of followers. I've got thousands of followers. I've got millions of followers. And then you look at their engagement, and the engagement is incredibly low. So for me, have I gained a lot of followers on certain platforms? Absolutely. But the engagement for me is what really matters.
Right.
So like if I'm on, like for instance, I'll say my Instagram page. On my Instagram page, I made a lot of connections with other women in business that are like in Houston and Atlanta. I would have never met these people.
Right.
Now, mind you, does the following number go up when you make connections and things like that? Yes, and that's great. But when it goes back down, I don't really care. Because for me, I'm like, okay, the ones that came, that I actually connect, maybe they sent me a DM, and we had a conversation. They invited me to their event. I invite them to mine. We find a way to work with each other. That, for me, says, okay, I'm doing something impactful on social media. I'm doing something meaningful. I'm making the change. I'm making the impact. I'm getting my brand out there. That's what I want. So at the end of the day, if I don't ever reach 1 million followers, I don't really care.
Right.
Because you don't really need 1 million followers.
No.
You really don't. Like, you have people that are successful out here that only have like 2,000 followers.
That's true.
At the end of the day, I always like to say this: Rolls-Royce doesn't have a commercial.
No,
that's true.
They're not showcasing everything. People know who they are. They know the brand.
They know it.
That's
they know
true.
where to go.
Exactly. So for me,
that's
my
true.
goal is to let people know what I am, let them resonate with the brand, understand what it comes with just by me saying, Coach Rakia Proctor, you've already got it. You know what's coming.
Yep.
You know what this sounds like to me?
Yeah.
It sounds like episode 1 when we said that when the student is ready, the master appears, right?
Right.
And in her situation, she's put in the time, the effort, the work, the discipline to get to where she's at now.
Right.
She's become a master of business, right? And now, in at least from my understanding is, and we mentioned this too, like, off camera, but dropping little nuggets for people via social media, via reels and whatnot, leads a trail to you, right? And if a person's willing enough, right, because they have to, it's a relationship. They got to put something in too. It's not like you're just gonna sit here and beat it into their head. They got to want to come and seek the information, right? Come and find the master, if you will.
Right.
So when they come to you, then okay, you know what? This person is serious. Yeah. This person is serious about wanting to learn, about wanting to grow, And that's where the real growth happens, So
absolutely. A person has to be willing. I'm a huge fan of, are you ready to work? Because I will never coach someone who says, I want you to do it for me.
Right.
Or they come and they say, this is what I want. Can you just put it together and then give it to me once it's all done?
Right.
And I'm like, but at the end of the day, it's your business.
Right.
This is your business, not mine.
Right.
So you have to know how it works. Right. I can show you. I can coach you. I can mentor you on the best practices and things to avoid, places that you definitely want to go. I can give you all of that. But at the end of the day, if you only do, let's say, a 6-month program with me, at the end of that 6 months, it's like a mama bird kicking the bird out the nest.
Right.
Like,
you gotta flap your wings.
Learn how to fly.
Yeah.
You have to do this. So I'm always asking people in the beginning, we can go over some basic things, but are you really ready to work? Right. Are you ready to put the time in? Yeah. And if you tell me yes, let's go.
Let's go. Foot on the gas.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you say no, I'm just going to put you in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let you know
Mm-hmm.
that
Right.
when you ready to move, then you come holler at me.
Oh, makes sense.
So I got a 2-part for you. So first one, you bring up the episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
You're a coach now, and like Malcolm said, you're a master in business. But every master also has a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you go to learn more? Because the game it never ends. You're gonna have to keep learning. So
for me, it's multiple avenues
Yeah.
because every coach doesn't coach on the same thing.
right.
So for me, I coach on the middle. So I coach on the systems and the strategy and the organization within your business. If you're
Right.
trying to rebrand, or you're trying to sustain, or you're trying to keep moving, or you're trying to, let's say, reach a different profit margin.
Right.
But you have other coaches that coach on marketing. You have
Right.
other coaches that coach on completely rebranding yourself. Like
Right.
I'm talking colors and mindsets, everything. So for me, one of the coaches that I love is Dr. Celicia Johnson. Love her. I met her at a retreat that I went to. Wasn't even expecting to go, but got picked to go for free.
Nice.
So absolutely, who
Nice.
wouldn't go to a free event?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So I went, and she was one of the speakers, and she like really resonated with me. And I actually went and won a free coaching session with her. And it ended up being one of the best things I could have done because she was someone who recognized what I was able to do. And she was able to leave some nuggets with me on, okay, you recognize this, but do you see this? So it was almost like I was seeing myself 10 years down the line. And
Oh,
it
that's
was like,
super
okay,
dope.
this was amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
So I will always say, and when it comes down to, okay, if I need more reassurance or I need to sharpen my blade on that, Dr. Celicia is the one I would go to.
Nice.
Iron,
Yeah.
iron sharpens iron, right?
Exactly.
Shout out Zach.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I always tell people that when it comes to coaching, it's a matter of if this is the time that you actually need it.
Right.
Because every time is not a time for coaching.
Right.
You might be in a season of, I got to just sit with what I have right now
Yep.
and
True.
figure myself out right now.
Yep.
And then once I'm done with that, now I'm in a place to need a coach.
Yep.
Now I'm in a place where I need someone that'll help me out in this area or someone that'll help me out in that area.
Right.
So when it comes to a coach, I always say you just kind of have to figure out which one you need right now
Yep.
and if you're in a place to need one.
Yep. I agree with that.
No,
I agree with that.
That's solid. And two, I was like, as I'm hearing you guys talk about it and discuss it, I started thinking about other coaches, right? Not just in business, but in life, whether it be sports, et cetera, right? But I thought about like Phil Jackson, right? And how good and how great he was at getting players who from all different backgrounds, right, to play together, to buy in. But one of the things he was great at, and I hear you mention it. You mentioned it earlier, but you also mentioned it with the coach that you went on at the retreat. Is that they're able to see something in you that you didn't see in yourself,
Right.
or you don't see in yourself at that moment, right?
Right.
And they're able to pull it out of you and get you to see it. Like, no, look in the mirror again.
Right.
Yep.
Something you're missing.
Something
Do
you're
you see it
missing.
now?
Yeah.
And then to see that light bulb moment, or to have that light bulb moment yourself, where you're like, oh,
And that's the qualities of a good coach.
that's
That can pull that out of you.
Yes,
That not just the coaches that say, I've got a plan.
right.
This is a 10-step program.
right.
I give it
Right.
to everybody.
Right.
Do
It's
this.
and it just works.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm like, this may not work
Everybody's
for everybody.
different. No,
but
it's
the
true.
coaches that can really sit with you and be like, okay, I hear you, but I think this.
Yeah.
I hear this. I see this for you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the types of coaches I love because that's how I coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people where I'm in a room, and if you ever see me like this, and I'm just looking,
Yeah. It means you
I
observing.
see something in somebody
Right.
that
Yeah.
they don't see in themselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have no problem with saying, hey,
Yeah.
I see this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to drop it on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to fester in you.
Right.
I want you to remember that I told you this.
Yeah.
Right.
Simply because every time you move now, I want you to be thinking on that goal that
Oh,
I just
yeah.
dropped for you.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
you
moving
mentioned
towards that.
you mentioned when you were in 6th grade, a coach said something to you. Even keel. Yeah.
Yep.
Even keel, right?
Yep.
And how it stuck with you still to this day.
Yep.
You know, that mindset. And that's just, and was it a male or female? I mean, it doesn't matter.
It was a male basketball coach.
Okay, yeah, male basketball coach. But just in that moment when he said it, he was hoping that this would happen,
Yeah.
Right.
right? He was hoping that it would be something that stuck with you for the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Full circle moments.
There you
Gotta
go.
love 'em. Gotta love 'em.
Whose question was that? That was Aurela's.
Yeah.
Aurela's question.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's cool that
Yeah.
it came to the episode. So here's the second part. When you transitioned to full time, was if if at all, was it discouraging that the people around you weren't coming to you for business right away? Like people you know or associates, doesn't have to necessarily be family, but we talked about this with Rome on one of the episodes, how you start to do something, but the people closest to you don't really come to support you. It's like, oh, well, that's just Rakia. Like she doesn't really, that's just Rakia. Did you get that in the beginning?
I did. Okay. And that was definitely a learning experience because everyone, when they first start out, and I don't care who you are and in what area that you're in, whatever you do, you always think that when you start out, that everyone around you is going to jump. Simply because they've always come to you. Right. You were always that person. Right. So they already came. So when I become official and I start putting price tags on it, they're going to come too. I'm going to make my money back. Right. And then when you turn around and you're like, wait.
Where's everybody at?
They only wanted it when it was free. Yeah. They only wanted it because it was easy access. Yeah. Right. So, yes, that could be very discouraging. But one thing that I really try to encourage aspiring entrepreneurs is to not look at around you right now. Look outside of your inner circle because your main consumer is not your friends and it is not your family. It is always going to be someone that doesn't know you. Because at the end of the day, the people that know you, sometimes they're coming with preconceived notions because they know you. Right. They've seen you grow up. Maybe you've told them about some mistakes you've made. So now they're holding that over your head, not realizing it. Right. But in the back of their head, like on a subconscious wait a minute, level, I gave you $20 last year and you didn't get that back. Right. So I don't know if I want to pay you because I might not get what I asked for.
That's true.
So people that are around you and you love family, you know, they're good supporters. But when it comes to who is going to give you your bottom line, who's going to give you your profit, it is not going to come from the people around you. So it's a hard pill to swallow in the beginning. It's very discouraging in the beginning, but it helps you to figure out, is this really the path for you? Because if you get discouraged in the beginning off that and you give up, maybe this wasn't the path for you or this wasn't the right time for you.
There you go.
True.
I like that.
But if you're able to say, you know what? Everyone that was around me didn't root for me or they didn't pay into what I had, but I know that this is for me and I'm going to keep moving. Let's go.
I like that.
Yep.
You reach another level. You reach another level of understanding.
No, it's true. It's so true. And something that I always say is just because a person has eyes doesn't mean they can see. Right?
Very true.
So it's like they can't see what you see. You know, when you look in the mirror, you're able to see, oh, this is where I'm headed. This is what I got, even bringing in the coaching stuff. Like, man, this is, I know where this is headed. Right. And you have such a belief and you take that leap of faith on yourself. I think too, it triggers other people because they didn't take a leap of faith on themselves. Right. So it's like by supporting you, they're kind of going against their own self. Yeah. It kind of breeds this contempt or this envy without them even realizing, like you said, on a subconscious level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And that almost ties into the book I'm currently reading, and that's people getting in touch with their calculating self, where it's full of comparisons and measuring things instead of your central self, which is being open and aware. Yep. So two different things, but I'm reading about it, so I'm like, oh, hey, I just read about that.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, it's the book's called Art of Possibility. It talks about a lot of those ideas. And those are some of the bigger ones, knowing when you're in your calculating self and when you're in your central self. Because a lot of people sometimes, even myself, reading, I'm like, oh man, for the longest time I was in my calculating self. Right. Now, now I'm trying to transition, but we're human, so we're always going to be in our calculating self at some points. But those are all just illusions, is what the book says. So
awareness of self, right?
Awareness of self.
Awareness of self.
But so just real quick. So we're getting towards the end. Got like 10 minutes left. So we got 2 questions left. If you wanna ask the last one is talking about your children, which I really want to hear this one because we talked about it.
True. Okay. So how do your children motivate you, if they do at all?
No, I don't like them. No,
ooh, wee, CJ. I know you're gonna be watching this, so she said it. All right, she said it.
No, I love you, monkeys. But my kids, I will say, and it's ironic because a lot of people think, oh, you have kids, and a lot of times your dreams go to the wayside. I feel like for me, my kids became the thing that really pushed me. And it was more of, there were certain things that I didn't like that happened when I was a kid. And now having a daughter, I'm like, no, I need to show her what it's like to be in a healthy relationship. I need to show her what it's like to have a dream to do something. And no matter what anyone says, you're going to go after it. No matter what adversity you hit, you're going to keep moving. With my son, I understand that there's different complexities between men and women. But I want to show him this is a female side of things. Right. So my kids are huge inspirations for me. They're huge motivators for me. They don't even realize it half the time when they say certain things. And, you know, kids will say some of the darndest things. Like, they really will. And I feel like that's a TV show.
Right.
But they will. But it's sometimes they'll say certain things that even will trigger ideas for me. Right. Like, it'll even trigger, like, ooh, I can make a whole course out of that. Out of something that he said. Or some issue that, like, my daughter, there's certain subjects in school that she struggles with. And I have learned different ways to teach her outside of the way that the normal school system does it. So by me sitting there and figuring out a different way of teaching her, a different style of teaching her, I then have figured out a different way of coaching people. Now I figured out, okay, well, I already knew that everyone learned different. Excuse me. But, sorry. But normally people think, I think it's like 4 or 5 different learning styles that people normally talk about. In my opinion, I think it's like 50 to 60.
Probably.
There's so many different variations of how people learn.
True.
Right.
I agree.
And as a business coach, you have to understand that sitting in a room of, let's say, 30 to 50 people, everyone in that room is not going to learn the same.
Right.
So in order to be an effective coach, you have to understand, how do I reach you? But then how do I reach you? But then how do I make sure that you understand what I'm saying when I'm talking to this person? How do you navigate that?
Right.
And I think working with my kids and the fact that they both learn completely different,
Right.
I've learned that. I've learned how to manage emotions, feelings, the way people think differently, and emotions get involved when you don't necessarily get it right the first time. Now you're upset. You don't get it right the first time, but you're moving on to the next thing.
Right.
People in business do the same thing.
Yep.
They get frustrated when they don't get the sale, and now they've completely tapped out. This person is mad that they didn't make the sale, but they're like, okay,
I'm gonna go harder. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how they connect with each other.
It is.
But dealing with your kids is very similar to dealing with people in business. I appreciate my kids for that.
Yeah.
They get annoying sometimes, but I appreciate them all the same.
Well, isn't that like one of the beautiful things about life is like inspiration is all around you.
Everywhere.
Whether you're aware of it or not, you just have to tap in. And so like what I think of as I heard you speak is it reminds me of something that Rick Rubin talks about when it comes to like creativity and inspiration. Right. If you're able to, in a sense, if you can just metaphorically picture yourself as a radio, right?
Right.
If you're on the wrong channel, it's staticky, right? You don't hear the station clearly, right? But if you're on the right station, if you ground yourself, if you're willing to kind of stay grounded and just listen and look around and observe,
right? You
might realize like, man, there's inspiration all around me,
right?
Absolutely.
You know, I can be as creative as I want to be simply by just paying attention to my kid. I just learned something. I'm trying to teach him or her. And they're over here teaching me.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, all these things that are happening constantly on a daily basis surround us, man. If we just stop for a quick second, man, and just look around, pay attention. You know? Doesn't cost anything to pay attention, right?
I always say, get in a room and just be quiet. Just pay attention to the people in the room.
Right.
I always tell people, go to networking events that have nothing to do with your industry and just pay attention.
Right.
You will be inspired in that room. You will learn so much. You will make connections with people that you would have honestly never connected with because they're in a completely different industry than you.
Yeah.
But just be in the room. It's good to just be a fly on the wall sometimes.
Right.
It's really good to just sit there and just listen.
That's true.
I have definitely learned over the last few years to just be silent sometimes.
Yep.
I like talking, but it's always not a place to talk.
Right.
No, true.
Right.
True.
Yeah, so as we get towards the end, we have a question from the last guest that we have to ask you, which is, what is the meaning of life?
For me, the meaning of life is being present in every moment that you're in, whether that's I'm sitting at home at dinner with my kids and I'm there. Like I'm physically there, but am I mentally there?
Mm-hmm.
Like am I paying attention to the story that I've probably already heard from one of my kids a million times?
Right.
But am I still paying attention? Am I giving her or him the attention that they need in that moment? Because all of those little moments of just being present are impactful to everybody else. It's like a ripple effect. So if I'm sitting here and I'm actually paying attention to you, I'm being in this moment and I'm giving you what you need. Now the next time you sit at a table with someone else, you're going to expect that.
Right.
I've kind of I've basically taught you what it's like to just be in the moment.
Right.
So for me, it's all about just being present, being in the moments that you have, experiencing what you need to experience in those moments. Because people will go past experiences and gain one thing, and they were actually meant to gain 20
Yeah, no,
because they didn't pay attention.
They
Just were like, oh, I only came here to, I don't know. You may go and order food from a restaurant.
Right.
And you go to pick it up, and you're like, I just go to the desk, I grab my food, and I walk out. Had you slowed down a little bit,
Right.
maybe you would have recognized that the person at the front desk, all they wanted was a hello, how you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
And that would have changed their life.
It's true.
Or, maybe you have noticed something. If you're someone in construction, you would have noticed there was something wrong on the wall.
Right.
And you could have helped them out.
Right.
That would have basically, you giving that help right there could have saved that business from closing next month.
No,
It's just being in those moments.
I like that. All right, so now it's your turn. You get to ask a question for the next guest.
My question would be, what mindsets do you feel like are really needed right now for the youth to really comprehend? Because obviously things are changing every day, stuff changes, but there's certain concepts as an adult that you understand that you wish you would have known when you were a kid. You wish someone would have given you that. So I would say what mindset would you say is the most important things that you wish that the youth would get right now?
I like that.
Deep.
I like that because we do cover like youth and how to impact them. Zach covered that a little bit.
They're the future.
Yeah, the
No,
future.
and that's I wanted to mention this because I thought about this. I watched this show a long time ago that used the analogy of life being a chess game, right? And the most important piece that you have to protect on the chessboard is the king, right? And in this analogy, it referenced that children right now and then the unborn children are actually the king, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
And that we must protect them at all costs.
Right.
Yep.
And the question that you just asked really hits home even with me right now because I'm so big on, I was trying to, before I started my own family, I was thinking about, like what is it that I want to really teach my children, right? And what is it that I want to focus on being a father and being a husband and so on and so forth? And how do I want to change the world in my own way?
Right.
And I keep coming back to the family unit.
Yeah.
That's what I keep coming back to, man, and how important that is. We cannot fix anything in this country until we take the time to focus on the family unit and to focus on the children. And that requires starting with yourself first, right?
Yep.
Like being introspective,
Right.
being aware of yourself, knowing
Right.
what's good, what's bad, all of these things. But that really is a
Yeah, that's a good
great
question.
That
We'll
is.
see how
I know.
we'll see how they answer. But
Great
we're
mind.
gonna tag you too. So when we post that short, we'll tag you so you can hear the answer
Yeah.
to
I
it.
definitely want to hear it.
All right. And then,
Yeah.
and then time for the surprise.
Oh,
'Cause
man,
give-
that's right.
give 'em
You're
a
right, you're right, you're
surprise.
right. Here at the Electives
Drum
podcast,
roll.
every now and then, drum roll, please. We like to surprise our viewers and our listeners. So obviously, Rakia, she has an amazing summit coming up that we would love for all of you guys to go to if you have the opportunity to. But and speaking kind of like one of the reasons why we would love as many women as we can to go to this particular summit is because you don't know who you're gonna meet.
Right.
Whatever you go there for, you're gonna get probably 2 if not 3 times more
Absolutely.
than what you thought you were gonna get, right? And it's an experience, and it's something that will not just motivate you, but that will just you'll want to go out there and do more, right?
Yep.
So what we're gonna do here at the Electives podcast, and on behalf of Rakia, is we're gonna have 4 tickets available that we're gonna give out for free, right? And so pretty much what we're gonna need you guys to do is we just want you guys to tag 3 people in the comment section that you think would want to go to this event and be a part of this event. And then what we're going to do is probably about a week or 2 out from the actual event, because it's going to be in July, is we're going to do a Instagram Live, and we'll use one of those websites where we can randomly generate names and shuffle names, and we're going to pick somebody's name or 3 names, and then 4 names, and then we'll give out those tickets in that way. So we're going to do 2 full summit passes, then we're going to do 1
conference
ticket,
yep.
which will be Sunday, right?
Yep.
And that will include breakfast and lunch, and then we're going to have 1 more ticket, which is the Saturday experience. So like we said, we really, really, really are hoping that as many women as possible can go to this particular event. But, you know, and on behalf of Rakia, we can't thank her enough for everything that she's dropped on us today. But the fact that she's willing to do that for our viewers and our listeners, as well as the people that follow her, we couldn't ask for more.
No. And is it just for women?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So tag.
Just
so here's
this one is women.
So here's the rules. Tag 3 women.
Okay, 3 women.
Follow Rakia.
There you go.
Follow us.
There you go.
And then share it.
There you go.
Is that good? Are you good with that?
I'm good with it.
All right. So if we see that you meet all those requirements, tickets are yours.
Tickets are yours.
Cool.
So when's the summit?
The summit is July 8th and the 9th.
July 8th and 9th.
July 8th and 9th.
Nice.
So warm weather, get to dress nice.
There you go.
Come as you are. Like I always
say.
say, sometimes I'm gym shoes, sometimes I'm heels. So I'll probably do both.
Dope.
There you go. There you go.
Dope,
But I always tell people, come as you are and just be yourself. Show up as your brand.
Nice. And do you have one last piece of advice for our viewers, our women viewers?
I will say, in a world right now where people are starting to be comfortable with being authentic, really understand who you are. Like, really understand what your values are, what your morals are, where your ethics align, like all of that. Really figure it out, because as you move forward, as you encounter other people, as you come across, different business opportunities, you want to fall back on that. Does this resonate with me? Am I comfortable with making this decision? Does it feel good? But you can't make those decisions if you really don't understand you and what you value. So really figure that out.
I like that.
Hey, man.
I like that.
We couldn't ask for more. Didn't I tell you, man? I told you this was going to be an amazing episode.
It was good. We're going to need a new memory card soon.
I know, man. We're going to have to do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, okay, LeBron.
Yeah,
right,
Miami.
LeBron.
Yeah. How many we going to win? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, man. All right, so with that being said, let's hit them with the outro.
Hit them with the outro.
All right, we want to thank you guys again for tuning in and listening here to the Electives Podcast. We once again would like to thank Rakia for coming on. This has been a long time in the making, so for her to take time out of her day to make this happen and everything that she's doing, we really appreciate you. Thank you, seriously, from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
And we'll, after post-summit, probably in the late summer or maybe fall, we'll do a part 2. We'll talk about the summit. We'll have you back on. And, So thank you guys for listening. As always, we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.